to talk about is how money gets handled by the PTA. So first, our donations come in from what we call general funds. These are just unrestricted, people just give money to the PTA. We call them unrestricted funds. They come in through the auction, they come in through the annual fund. And then the PTA board makes a recommendation to the membership, who then decides how they're going to be spent. And we do an annual budget. We do a proposed budget in the spring, and then we do a more formal final budget in the at the August meeting. And then the money does not roll over from year to year, and we can change it mid-cycle. We usually don't, but we have a meeting this year. We're going to have it in February, where we look at how the spending is going to see if there's areas that need more spending, and so forth. And then we kind of can move the money, but that gets controlled by the PTA membership. Restricted funds are donated to the PTSA on behalf of a specific group or project. PTSA holds the money and does the bookkeeping, and it can only be used by that program. So some examples of that are the athletic teams, the jazz band, the student center and staff lounge. That money is donated solely for that purpose, and it does roll over from year to year. Occasionally, PTSA can reallocate it if it goes unspent for too long. So for example, we had a couple $100 in a scholarship fund that had been set up sometime in the early 2000s. At some point, no one remembered what it was for. It got rolled over to the general budget. So those funds are kept, accounting is kept for both kinds of funds, and the money is kept pretty separately. So how does the money, come on, figure out how to move this. Our procedures for handling money. The financial secretary is responsible for handling checks and cash. She or he makes a deposit on a bi-weekly or monthly basis at our bank. Square and PayPal deposit directly to our bank account. So when those get used, and I'll talk a little more about those a little bit in a moment. If you are raising money for a particular program, you need to make sure that donors indicate what the purpose of the money is when they donate it, either on their check or in their PayPal donation. PTA can also set up donation links or campaigns for particular programs. So for example, we can, Paideia, I can set up a link and send it out. Miss Jo can send it out, and those donations I know are going to go for Paideia programs. So that's how our money comes in. On our expense side, the treasurer, that's me this year, writes the checks. We only have physical checks. We don't do it any other way. Our payments all require a check request form, either with an invoice to give a check directly to a vendor or with receipts for reimbursement. We don't have a credit card because of the state PTA bylaws. So if you need help buying something, let me know, and we'll figure out a way to get it purchased so that you don't have to be out of pocket. We don't want teachers out of pocket. Okay, so the platforms we use for getting income, PayPal is our most common. We have folks who make monthly donations, who make regular donations or end of year donations. That's where our donation button on our website goes to. We have a Square account on those Square readers, those are used for tickets at the door, for example, the school play, and for merchandise sales, when we occasionally do that. We ask people not to use GoFundMe. It is incredibly difficult to get money from GoFundMe as a nonprofit. It is possible. We do have an account set up with them. There are a lot of hurdles to it. We also ask you not set up one in your name for a couple reasons. First, it's not a tax deductible donation if it goes to a individual's GoFundMe. It's not a charitable donation, so they don't get any kind of tax benefit. Second, it's income to the person who has set up the GoFundMe, and there are tax implications of receiving that money, and you have to report it on your tax, your tax, what do you even call that? Why am I blanking on it? When you report your taxes. So we ask people to avoid GoFundMe. Donors Choose is a totally separate platform from the PTSA. If you are fundraising for your class, for supplies or materials or a project or a trip, Donors Choose is a great way to do it because other funders will match often. For example, a parent told me that sometimes Microsoft will go on and match all of the projects that are STEM or something like that. So you expand the number of people you can raise money from, and it's funneled through Donors Choose. And that is not money that ever comes through the PTSA. We also use Eventbrite for event tickets. The junior prom used Eventbrite last year. It is similar to Square in that we get money remitted either weekly or monthly or at the end of the event. And that is good for events. And then obviously the best way is good old fashioned checks, cash. We do have a cash, a piece of form that you fill out when you submit cash to identify how much you have, and that has to match how much gets deposited. That's to protect the money. It's a chain of custody kind of thing. That money, neither checks nor cash get any fees taken out of them the way they do at PayPal and Square and Eventbrite. So it is the best way to get money. So it's fundraising sources. First and foremost, it's important to understand that the PTA is really meant to fund programs that happen outside of school hours. If it's a program that's taking place within the time period of 8:30 to 3:30, that is expected to be supported by the school or the district. And so if you have a need, we do ask that you check with the district, the school, see if there's measure N//H funds, because if it's, there's a legal obligation from the district to provide a fair amount of that stuff. And if they're not doing it, parents would love to know that so we can lobby them, but we would like them to be more responsible for that stuff. Other sources, individuals, foundations and grants, tickets and events, merchandise sales, community partners and corporate partners. And I will talk about each of these. So individuals, obviously we ask current families all the time to support us. You can also maintain an alumni database for your program. So Miss Jo, for example, keeps a list of her students, and after college, she will connect with them on Facebook and Instagram. She does wait 4 years until after graduation. And then once a year or every other year, she'll send a message asking for support. And she usually raises a few $1,000s, which pays for students to be able to go to a play, for example. If you've had an event in the past, keeping a record of who those event attendees were so that they can be asked again to support the program. And we recommend that you keep records, like spreadsheets, current for future outreach and to share with other teachers for continuity. So, for example, the academy directors might want to keep track of their donors and alumni so that they can reach out to them on an ongoing basis.
Can I ask just a clarifying question?
Sure.
Y'all are all volunteer?
Yes.
There's no staff person, right?
No.
Wow, this is an incredible amount of work for volunteers to be responsible for, and I'm just feeling really thankful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we're all volunteer.
Even like keeping a donor database, that is so much work.
Well,
that used
yeah.
to be my job, and it's like, yeah.
We actually are, I should say, I say this, but in fact, the PTSA's donor database is kind of a hot mess. And
all donor databases are a hot mess.
Yeah. And it's something that we're currently looking at trying to improve. Really the main people you're going to catch are the current families. And we do have good tracking on that. But it would be better to, especially to be able to capture alumni, because that's a completely
Let's talk
untapped
offline about that, because I have a couple of ideas of people who might be willing to help.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
So foundations, the Philanthropic Venture Fund will give $500 on very short notice for programs that are documented. And we have had students in the past who will help teachers write those grants. They're very short application. It's $500 very quickly and easily. And we can get multiple grants each year from them. Beyond that, we recommend that you look into area-specific foundations and programs, maybe making it a student research project. Those are often project-based, and if you collaborate among subject areas, you'll increase your chances of success, but they do require advanced planning. So, for example, we got a one individual donor who gave $10,000 to start the makerspace, and that's great. And it could be used as a catalyst for fundraising for more of that kind of support. And this is, we have talked sometimes at the PTSA about having someone who's a grant writer help out, but we can't invent these projects. We need teachers and staff members to let us know what they need. And then we're happy to support it. Another way to raise money.
So you're saying, like, if I had something and I was like, and I could say, could you guys find a grant writer to help me write this? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah, if you said, I have this idea for a program, here's what it's going to do, here's who it's going to serve, then we can find a parent who can do it with you. But if okay. Parents are out there making stuff up, it's ridiculous.
Right, of course. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That would be amazing to have somebody do that.
we have parents who do that kind of thing, and they just we don't really want to set them down a course of writing something that isn't going to be useful.
Exactly. No, that makes perfect sense. I'm really excited to hear about that resource.
Another way to raise money, performances. Obviously, Oakland Tech Rep is able to raise money for their program by selling tickets. But it is also possible to host a speaker or a comedian or another program and split the door proceeds. The auditorium is accessible through Facilitron, and selling tickets to a program could be a good way to raise money. The PTA holds parties through the auction, and then other parties are held to raise money. Those can be done through ticket sales. They can be done through asking donors at the event. They can also be really valuable for community building. The soccer teams, all 5 soccer teams, had a joint soccer families party at a brewery. They raised several $1,000s for the soccer teams, and they really drew closer together as teams. And a lot of people reported that to be a really successful event. We also had a joint student center sports booster parent event, and we raised money through ticket sales and then some donations, but more importantly, the PTSA parents and the sports parents had an opportunity to interface and talk about common interests and get to know each other. And then a lot of student groups do kind of old-fashioned sales. They do bake sales. I saw that some of the students were selling mochi. They sell, Valentines. And so those are great ways for student groups to raise money, and they may not be as successful for bigger programs, but they are great when you're supporting students. Merchandise sales, we used to sell sweatshirts and so forth. The difficulty is in administering that. There's a couple of problems. First of all, they require upfront funding in most cases, and we don't really know exactly what's going to sell. So it's kind of hard to gauge how much we should buy. we are required to collect sales tax and pay sales tax. And that can be very difficult for us, or it just doesn't happen. We generally discourage merchandise sales unless it's handled through a vendor who will calculate and submit the sales tax. I believe that Square will do that. The guy who runs our spirit store on the website will do that for us. So we do ask that, folks be mindful of the restrictions on merchandise sales before they undertake that. So, but it is
if students in the fashion academy were to design tech gear as to raise funds for something, is that something that could go on the Spirit Store website, or is
absolutely, yes.
Okay,
absolutely. Cool. And I mean, I think we could do it if we were to pre-sell stuff. I mean, I don't think it's impossible. It's just a little more of an undertaking.
Yeah,
no, we don't currently have an individual parent who's willing to handle the face-to-face sales. The Spirit Store sort of made the most sense during the pandemic. That was sort of the only way we could do it. So we haven't really revisited it since we've been back in person.
I know Miss Monroe has talked about possibly doing that, so I'll pass that on to her.
I think it would be great, especially if it was student designs.
Yeah.
So the PTSA has community partners. We receive money from Ride for a Reason, Taste of Temescal, Nathan and Company. They give a portion of the amount they raise each Christmas to us. We do partner with See's Candy Roundtable Minted. They'll give us a discount code. Currently, the See's Candy one is active for Valentine's Day, and then they provide a share of the sales to us. We ask parents to sign up for eScript and Amazon Smiles. People who are basement tiers at Sports Basement can identify Oakland Tech PTSA as their charity, and we get the money. And those are, the ways that PTSA does it, but programs could also partner with community partners to figure out how to raise money, particularly, academies that had some kind of, affinity for whatever the community program was. And then, finally, this is what the website looks like. Our PTSA membership and reimbursements. So this is just a screenshot of it. But if you go there, you can find the check request form. You can find the cash verification form. If an individual is going to be paid for their services over $600, we need a W-9 so we can give them a 1099.
Over $600
over
needs
the
a 1099. Over $600 in a fiscal year.
Yeah, in a fiscal year.
And that's June to July.
June to June.
July
to June.
Okay, so
and that's not for reimbursements. That's for services.
Right.
So DJs that are, entertainment, stuff like that, lighting people, outside instructors who come in to teach a series of classes, any of those folks, we would need a W-9 from them in order to pay them. Okay. But we can do that with the check request.
Okay, so a W-9 and a check request would get
a pay check to anybody who did services.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that is the quick, and that is like really fast. But
so helpful.
I think I got through it all, and I'm happy to answer questions.
No, that's super helpful. I really appreciate.
Now, I know that last year FATA was able to raise a fair amount of money and then used it for the FATA Fund Day. Yeah. And that was, we considered a restricted fund. So when the money came in for FATA, that was set aside for FATA. I reported to Miss Arnold, like, here's how much you got, here's how much you can spend, here's how much you've spent. And I do a separate accounting for that money for each of the accounts.
Okay. And you don't know or have accessible offhand if there is still any money. I don't think there is.
There isn't any money left. Yeah, no.
Thought we used it. Okay. Yeah, this is really super helpful. I got an email from Jessica last night about the paying for the success stories cohort from this past spring. So I need to respond to her, but I wanted to come here first and talk to you. So this
Okay.
is super helpful. I do have a lot of ideas of how to spend money, and so I'll reach